Thank you, everyone. Question 1 I'll take in 2 parts. I'll answer the first part. The first is how and why the Australian government was able to disregard the outcome of the 2015 North Island referendum. Ethics aside, the key flaw of the Legislative Assembly governance model was that it was a form of delegated power, which is reversible, and points to a structural weakness in those governance arrangements, which I will talk to when I answer question 3. Second part of the question, I respectfully suggest that the Governance Committee is indeed the start of us progressing the right to self-determination and our future, and for that reason we all need to participate and contribute to ensure the recommendations that come from the committee reflect the best possible use of this opportunity. In respect of immigration and the moratorium in place, sorry to answer a question with a question, but how long will the sustainability study take, and who do we trust to develop those recommendations just now? We need to manage expectations of the committee, and appreciate that the critical task is the development of a governance model. The committee is not a government, but it needs to factor these policy provisions into the design of the suggested solution. The sooner the committee can complete their work, the sooner policy making becomes a local affair and returns to local responsibility. And I caution, the current window of opportunity may not be an open-ended arrangement. We must focus this time to identify the appropriate governance solution, get that agreed, bedded down, and implementation underway. Are there other areas of concern? I have lots of areas of concern, and to the rest of the communities this could be a seriously long list. But the list needs to be instrumental in negotiating the committee's recommendations. It cannot become a to-do list for the committee. Their role, that is the role of the next elected government, with responsibility and authority to make such decisions. Question 3. The key flaw in the 1979 governance model was that it was a form of delegated power, which is reversible, rather than a devolution of power, which cannot be reversed so easily, and in many cases is irreversible. The 2015 actions demonstrate the unilateral authority exercised by the Commonwealth over the island under delegated arrangements. Dependency governance arrangements operating on delegated power were never meant to be permanent and always understood to be transitional and preliminary to a model of full self-government in conformity to minimum standards. Thus, the extension of delegated power through constitutional orders, legislation or other methods can always be reversed. There is a fundamental distinction between the exercise of delegated powers and dependencies and the exercise of devolved power. This is a key change for our next government, from a house built on sand to one built on solid and permanent foundations. Question 4, a financial crisis should never be weaponised as it was to North Island community, but we are wiser to the fragility now of what we had, and the committee must be sure not to overlook these flaws in their work and recommendations. The Legislative Assembly model has the benefit of being a lead reference point for a large portion of our community and can therefore help inform what local needs include, even if this only comes from knowing what we didn't like. The need for community dialogue and assessment cannot be underestimated if we want to plug the holes that helped sink the ship last time, remembering that a good portion of our community did not oppose the end of the Legislative Assembly, and their reasons need to be equally accounted for in what comes next. Going back to something just because it's familiar may be problematic rather than progressive, but then again, it may well turn out to be that with some considered tweaks, this may be the most seamless model to re-establish and resume local governance from. But let's not be locked into a position without moving through the process first, and knowing why we have arrived at where the recommendations point us. Question 5, areas of research on the previous governance models and why they have failed. Well, Norfolk's had lots of governance models, council elders, executive councils, advisory councils, blah, blah. I would say the categorically failing with each of these is they've been designed externally without genuine local participation. There's 2 consequences. The first being the model is imposed. The second is it's unsuited to the community's needs. Wasted time, wasted money, wasted North Islanders' opportunities to develop as they may have chosen to. The significance of now being the first real opportunity North Island has to design an appropriate governance model could be a truly liberating achievement on our historical timeline. Question 6. In In terms of a preferred model of government, to be honest, I would hope that none of the community members are at this place yet, because the model needs to be informed by community sentiment, and that process has not yet started. So the short answer is really just a reiteration of an earlier response, and that is the recommended model must include an appropriate devolution of power and funding to Norfolk Island. There are multiple examples of such forms of government operating effectively throughout the world, including in many Pacific Island nations. From my research, the ones I am drawn to provide clarity around a distinct legal status and identity. Question 7 of my participation, I would say I bring understanding of the need and opportunity. I bring a local lens, and in particular local values and achievements, but most importantly I would say is my genuine regard for community wellbeing and seeing that all voices are heard in this process. I do want to see Norfolk return to a happy and welcoming community. I do want to see local opportunity for our own people to reach their potential and be instrumental in the future of Norfolk Island. And I do want to see the natural beauty of Norfolk preserved and not lost to mindless development. I believe in Norfolk Island and I believe in our future. I offer to do what I can to put my knowledge and experience to good use for a secure and empowered future. Question 8. How important? Without the will of the community, there is no strength for local representatives to negotiate from. With the community, the recommendations become a community-driven mandate for the governance committee to advance and the Commonwealth to make provision for. I will not be part of any process that lacks transparency in putting the recommendations first to the people who are impacted by them. There must be integrity in developing the recommendations, and there must be evidence of overwhelming community support before the Minister is advised what meets our needs and aspirations for Norfolk Island's preferred and appropriate governance arrangements. With respect to question 9, with respect to meeting with community members, I'm not sure it's helpful now to be promising things that are yet to be established, but again, the outcome cannot be achieved without the community. The momentum needed to get the recommendations across the line will be mandated by the will of the community. How this is to be achieved should, in my view, be one of the first conversations the 3 Norfolk Island elected representatives have. From my experience, project managing the first heritage management plan, following the World Heritage Inscription, I would promote the establishment of a suite of tools for community and stakeholder engagement, including a dedicated meeting space to talk and brainstorm, create a peer review group to work alongside the committee to inform, troubleshoot, blah, 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 blah. I'm running out of time.
7.5 minutes.
Which one's the most important to finish with? Maybe it's, and finally, regarding those undecided, firstly, I acknowledge trust is a deep-seated wounding for many of us. It is intergenerational and born from a history of disregard and misrepresentation. I hear you. I get that people have their own reasons for not feeling aligned with this approach, and I respect the need for understanding these differences. But I say to these community members, the governance committee is in train. The work is about to commence. I question whether keeping what you could contribute to this work, whether that is wise or in Norfolk Island's best interests. I finish by encouraging the community to have their say and vote, so that whatever the outcome, Norfolk Islanders and this community are best represented and the decision is not left to default. This decision impacts us now and future generations ahead. If we want better, now is the time to make sure better is fully understood. Thank you.